Is Ryan Mativa, and I will be talking about Louis Armstrong. So a little bit about his background. He was born in 1901 in New Orleans, Louisiana on August 4th to Mary and William Armstrong. Growing up, he had a very rough childhood. His father left him as an infant, and so he was forced to live with his paternal grandmother, Josephine. After 5 years, he moved into a two-room house with his mother and his sister, Beatrice. He would perform in a vocal quartet with 3 boys for tips, and after that he got hired by a Jewish family, which helped him purchase his first cornet with the money loaned to him. In 1902, he was arrested for firing a pistol in the streets of New Year's Eve as a celebration, and he was arrested and sent to the Colored Wives' Home. He meets Peter Davis, who is the band director at the Wives' Home, who taught Louis a bunch of stuff about music, and that is what really sparked his musical interest. He was released 2 years later, and he got noticed by Joe King Oliver for his music talent. Oliver was one of the finest cornets player in New Orleans during the time, and Oliver became Armstrong's mentor and musical trainer. A little bit background continued. From 1919 to 1921, he would perform on riverboats and various ensembles. In 1932, he made his first recordings with Oliver's jazz band. In 1924, leaves Oliver's band and moves into New York and joins Fletcher Henderson's orchestra, making several records. And Fletcher Henderson's orchestra was one of the top African-American bands of the era. But a year later, he quits Henderson's orchestra and moves back to Chicago. He continues making records with famous musicians for the next 3 years. For the rest of Armstrong's life, he continues making record hits and starring in films. He traveled around the world, touring in many places, even lived in Paris for a year, and he sadly passed away in his sleep in his home in Corona, New York on July 6, 1971. Alright, now his impact on black culture. He was very well known around the world as one of the most influential figures in not only jazz but in all American music. His music and style influenced many future musicians in every genre of music. He created a new style of jazz by inventing a soloist approach when performing in ensembles. He implemented the famous swing style he developed from performing jazz. During 1925 to 28, Louis made scat singing popular in jazz, which was nonsense syllables instead of words. And he was the first African American to write an autobiography, host a national sponsored radio show, and he was also featured in a major Hollywood movie. Now I have a YouTube video that just shows an example of his scat singing.
Next number we're going to play for you is one of the good old things. And Dinah. Look out there, boss. Look out. Anyone finer in the state of Carolina? If it is, then you know. Show me, Dinah, you take a night blast. Remember city candy to the eyes of Dinah B. Baby, every night one eye, shake with light on. Cut my dynamite, take a mind, but it is you. This one is good, Johnny, baby. I'm a Dinah, Dinah.
So yeah, that was just a little clip showing how scat singing was performed back in the day. Okay, and then we got interesting facts. A Jewish family helped Lewis buy his first cornet. He almost always had lip damage due to his powerful trumpet playing. At around age 24, he was billed at the Dreamland Cafe as the world's greatest jazz cornetist. He was inducted into the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame in 2017, and the International Airport in New Orleans is named after him, which is the Louis Armstrong International Airport. And he is the oldest musician in American history to have a #1 song, which was Hello Dolly. Thank you all for listening, and have a good night.